A very warm welcome to this channel. This video is about the approach that we can take while preparing for a technical exam like assistant engineer exam or junior engineer exam conducted by a PSC. Now, whenever you're sitting for such exams, it may be PWD, PHE, water resource, irrigation, whichever department we're appearing for every technical exam, we have to sit for a general studies paper. Now, this general studies paper has exactly the same weightage as the technical paper. So its importance is as much as the technical paper. So we cannot afford to lose in that. Now, being engineers, we are always confused and a little bit scared about this paper because the subjects like political science, economics, geography, we have left it long back. Now, to go back to that and prepare for it is a big task. We don't know what are the books we have to follow. We don't know what are topics that are important, how to manage the time between the technical and the GS paper. Ultimately, what happens is that we are in utter confusion and we ultimately don't do that well in our preparation. So this video is about how to manage our time, what are the topics that are important, how we can get into the important topics, the important time management factors. Now, this is just one approach that I'll be talking about. There can be multiple approaches. You can have your own approach. This is something just I'm giving an idea how we can go about it. You can disagree with me or you can have your own approach about it. So this video, because a lot of non-SMEs people will be also appearing for the same exam, so I am doing this in English. But when we'll be doing technical subjects or when we'll be doing GS subjects, we'll be discussing the important topics and the important questions in both SMEs and English. When a candidate is preparing for these exams, for the GS paper specifically, so he can have different approaches. Now, two very extreme wrong approaches are this, that a person can completely neglect the GS paper. I'm confused about it, I find the subjects boring, or I'm scared of it, so let me just not do the GS paper and let me focus on my technical paper, which is my strength. So he'll put his entire focus and time and energy in the technical paper and ultimately neglecting the GS paper. Now, suppose even if he does very good in the technical paper, and getting 80-85 is a very good big task. So suppose he gets 85 marks in the technical paper, but he ends up getting 35 in the GS paper. So this 120 marks is not an assurance that he will get through. He might or he might not get through this exam. Right now, there's one another approach where the candidate might think, oh, this GS paper is so important and I don't know anything of it, so he'll get all scared and he'll put his entire focus in the GS paper. So what will happen is that he will start getting all the books, all the materials from the net. He'll take suggestions from his friends preparing for civil services, and he will start preparing for it, giving his entire time and energy into this, ultimately neglecting the technical paper. Now, what happens is that he might get a decent 50-55 marks in the technical paper and again a decent 55 marks in the GS paper, ultimately getting 110, which is again not very good in terms of the selection thing. He might or he might not get through. So this both extreme approaches are wrong in this case. So what we need to have is that we need to have a more balanced approach. That is, we need to prepare for both the technical and GS paper, manage our time between the two. And now, because the GS paper is such a vast syllabus, it has such a varied subjects, varied topics in it. So how to prepare on it, what are the topics that are most important, how to manage the time between both the papers is very important, and that's what we'll be discussing in this video. Now, the most important part of the syllabus. Now, what are the subjects that we need to go through in our general studies preparation? There's history, there's polity, there's science and technology, there's Assam, there's geography, there's economics, there's culture, there's current affairs, and there might be even some more subcategories that you can include. These are the categories which I usually divide my syllabus into. Now, this can be again broadly divided into statics and dynamics part. Now, statics are the questions which doesn't change over time. Now, if someone asks me when did the Quit India movement start, the answer to that question won't change over time. Now, if someone asks me who won the men's Wimbledon 2021, now the answer to that question will change every year. Now, in 2022, it will be a different answer. So, there is statics and dynamics part. Now, each of this subject has their own approach to be taken. Now it will need a different angle, a different preparation for each and every subject. Now we also have to take one thing into consideration is that we cannot afford to lose the statics question marks, because it is something which won't change over time, and this is something which we can master through preparation. So losing statics question in our examination is not acceptable. Dynamics, because it involves mostly current affairs and it's so vast, any question can be asked from any part, so there is a possibility 50-50 chance of getting the preparation right in this aspect. Now the second most important part while preparing for this kind of syllabus is to know which subject is my strength and which subject is my weakness. Now this will vary from student to student, and you need to know which exactly is your strength. Now once you know which subjects is your strength, now suppose I know that I am very good at polity and history, so my focus is that I should not lose any marks in history and polity at least in the statics portion. So once you go through this video, you try to evaluate yourself and see which are the subjects that you are most comfortable with and confident about. Once you have seen the syllabus of each and every subject and this and that, the second thing you need to do is that you need to go through some previous year question papers to get an idea of what kind of question is being asked from which subject carries more weightage and other things. Now this, I have helped you in this aspect in the sense that I've gone through few previous year question papers and have tried to categorize the questions into the subjects. Now, as per my analysis, now this can change, because see, if there is a question on suppose where is the Kaziranga National Park situated, now that question can be put in geography as well as Assam category. So in that way, every person has his own perspective in categorizing a question. So this is what my perspective is all about, and I have divided the questions in this aspect. Now this percentages might change plus minus 1 or 2% with every year question paper, but broadly if I see average, you see polity has 13%, that is at least 13 to 15 questions will come from polity in each exam. Assam section, now this Assam section can include Assam history, Assam geography, Assam economics, everything. So it will be around 16 to 18 questions. History, 9 questions, 9 to 10 questions. Now in this history I have excluded the Assam history part. Okay, this history is mainly Indian and world history. Economics, 8 to 10 questions. Geography, around 10 questions. Science and technology, 11 to 12 questions. Now this science and technology, again this category, some questions might be from current affairs, right? Like which vaccine has been developed for COVID-19, so that someone can include it in current affairs, someone can include it in science and technology. Aptitude, now this accounts to around 16 to 20 questions every year. Current affairs, 15 to 17 questions. So these are the broad categories that which we have divided our question paper into. Now before going into the preparation, you should understand, you should evaluate yourself, like what is the marks that I need to target minimum. Now if I am very confident that I can get 70 marks in my technical paper, 60-65 in the GS paper is good enough to ensure my position for the 5 round. Now if I think that I might get 60 in the technical paper, then 70 marks should be there in the GS paper. So you need to understand what is the minimum mark I need to target on. You cannot get 90 in a GS paper, so you need to target at least 65 to 70 marks in your GS paper. Now once you know that I have to get 65 to 70 marks in my GS paper, now I need to know which are the subjects I need to focus on. I need to see which are the subjects that has the most weightage. Now you see the top four, that is the aptitude, current affairs, polity, Assam, this accounts to around 55 to 60% of the total marks. So these four subjects is very important for me. Now see, being an engineer, you cannot afford to lose your aptitude 16 marks, because this is most reasoning, aptitude, and some English. So being an engineer, I cannot afford to lose these marks. So maybe out of 16 I might get say 14. Yes, So this is something which I cannot afford to lose, this marks. Now polity is something which has a limited subject matter. Now this polity includes mostly the constitution part, and in this constitution part there are many topics which are repeatedly being asked, like say article 1 to 32, schedules, right? Majorities, the Lok Sabha proceedings, etc. etc. Now, these things we'll be discussing in separate videos. Each and every subject will be dealt with. The important topics, what are the important questions that are being asked, how to go about the preparation, which are the books that we can follow, etc. Now, this polity usually cannot afford to lose marks in polity because it has a limited syllabus. Now, something which is very fast, I don't know from where the questions are being asked, I can afford to lose marks. But polity, because it has specifically questions are asked from our constitution, we know from where the questions are being asked, which are the main topics from which repeated questions are being asked. I cannot to afford to lose the marks in that. Now, suppose out of 13, I get 10 marks in this. Now, when you come to the next topic, that is Assam. Now, you see, you being from Assam, you cannot afford to lose your questions based on Assam. Now, when I'm saying questions based on Assam, it can be Assam history, it can be Assam economics, it can be Assam geography, Assam culture, anything, right? Now, if you see, most of the questions from Assam will pertain to Assamese history. Now, see what are the literatures available to us. There are very less literature on ancient Assam history. Yes, some questions might come from the ancient times like Banasur time, Nagasur time, and then we have to jump to Kosh Kingdom and Ahom kingdoms. Now, literature on these kingdoms is very limited, and we can afford to prepare well in these sections because the literature is limited. We know the questions will be asked from here, so we cannot afford to lose it. Assam geography, it's again a limited subject. We know which are the districts here, what are the resources available, what are the national parks. So you have to see the trend on which the questions is being asked. Assam economics, we will have to go through oil industry, tea industry, the budget of the last year, various programs and schemes launched by Assam government, etc. Now, if we go through this in a very systematic way, we can at least get 13 questions out of the 16 questions from Assam. Now, these 16 questions can extend up to 18, so we have to get 16 correct. And this is possible in Assam if we follow the correct methodology and we know what to study, limited subject syllabus, so we can afford to do it. Now see, just in these three sections, we can afford to get around 30, 35, 37 marks. So what we need to get is that out of the rest of the syllabus, we just need to get 30 more marks. Yes. So we can get a respectable 67 marks, which we have already talked about. So this is not very impossible task. Now if you see, we'll be doing videos on each and every subject. Now history, if you see, now this history doesn't include Assam history. I have already included Assam history in this section. So this history will be mainly Indian and the world history. Now, Indian history, we can divide it into again ancient, medieval and modern history. Most of the questions that are being asked, let it be UPSC or APSC, will be from modern history. Ancient history from the Indus Valley civilization, some from the Vedic period, some from Buddhism, Jainism time. Then maybe you can shift to the Delhi Sultanate period. Then you can shift to the Mughal period. Then we'll come to the modern part when the Europeans have come to India, the Indian freedom struggle. So you have to divide it into sections. We have to see what are the questions are being asked, which are the main topics on which questions are being asked, and then we can go to that. Now economics, again see, there are very few things that we have to take care of, as I'm repeatedly being saying about the previous year question papers. Repeated questions are being asked from the 5-year plans. If you see any question paper and study what the questions arising out of that. Now there are questions on repo rate, bank rate, reverse repo rate, Laffer's graph repeatedly being asked. So similarly we can prepare. We'll discuss how to do that. Geography, it can be a whole big syllabus if you look into it, but then we have to know which part of geography is important. Science and tech and current affairs are mostly they're interlocking, because some parts of the science and tech are usually the current affair questions. Now, the last two sections, that is current affairs and science and tech, actually the questions that are being asked from science and tech are usually from environmental science, or the questions which somehow or other are linked to current affairs or news of that is going around at that time. Now, suppose if the COVID-19 situation is there, questions might be asked regarding the vaccines that are being produced, the steps that are being taken, etc., which you can include in both current affairs as well as science and tech. Now, to predict what questions will be asked from current affairs is very difficult, because it is such a vast subject. If you pick up any newspaper of any day, you can at least get out 20 to 30 questions that can be potentially asked in the exam paper. So this is a very vast subject, and it's very difficult to predict. So the only way to do current affairs is practice as many questions as possible, get hold of some good material, and prepare accordingly. So we'll be doing a lot of mock tests, mock question papers, and previous year question papers in subsequent videos, and get hold of this whole subject. Stay tuned to this channel. We'll be having section wise, subject wise good videos which will give you an idea of what are the static portions which are most important. We'll be doing questions there, we'll be doing mock questions. We'll have a separate section for mock test, like 100 questions and 30 questions, maybe 50 questions. Please stay tuned to this channel and be connected. We'll have other avenues to get connected, and we'll be doing great in this exam. Thank you.